of our defenseless children, and we cannot underemphasize the importance of looking at safety and security. And to help us frame this very important discussion will be Dr. Joanne Lobandi, Director, Early Opportunities. And she will be followed by our speakers for today, Professor Amina Abubakar, Senior Research Scientist, Institute of Human Development at the Aga Khan University, and Ms. Tina Ojuka, Technical Advisor, Child Protection and Participation at the World Vision International. Please give a warm welcome to Dr. Joanne Lobandi.
Good afternoon. I hope you had a good lunch. And thank you for coming back so promptly. I'm going to make some brief remarks, but I first want to have everybody thank Aster, who has been in the background so supportive of early childhood in the region for years. Let's give her a round of applause. And Lily, who's the future. And thank you, Lily, for stepping in. I'm just going to give some framing remarks before we hear from our keynote speakers, and I'm going to hope that the AV works. So this, of course, am I doing something wrong? Okay, so the security and safety. We often hear people say safety and security, but actually if you look at the Lancet and the Nurturing Care Framework, it says security and safety. And I think it's interesting that they put those two in that order because security is critically important to safety. This session is really about three things. How do we think about the various aspects of nurturing care with regard to security and safety? We have to remind ourselves of the impact of adversity on young children, and we also are going to find hope, I hope, in the examples emerging from the regions that both of the keynote speakers will emphasize. If we look at what we mean by security and safety, we could probably all come up with many different definitions, but basically security means the state of being free from danger and threat, physically and emotionally. And safety means free from harm. So I think what's important about the word security being first is that it emphasizes that it's also about emotional security as well as physical security. And for young children, we know that they need more than anything love, attachment, consistency, and then add to the sentence. If we look at, no, I went the wrong way. If we look at the ways that security and safety contribute to nurturing care, we see three things. First, it reinforces the importance of prevention. And I thought it was great this morning when Cornelius reminded us that the goal of preventing violence is not just a goal for child protection, but it's a goal for education, it's a goal for health, and it's the integrated nature of this prevention aspect that the security and safety element of nurturing care does. Secondly, it shines a spotlight on those children most at risk, and then thirdly, it focuses on the enabling environment, the family and the community, that the social protection that must be in place. So if we look at each of those really quickly, reinforcing the prevention and integrated nature of development includes good health and adequate nutrition. This morning we heard a lot about early learning, but it also means integrating health, integrating a prevention aspect of early learning, encouraging responsive parenting and security and safety overlap each other, and protection from adversity and violence. So this is not about pointing to social protection as the sector to assure security and safety. It's about all of us working together to prevent adversity. It also is a megaphone. This part of nurturing care is a megaphone, puts a spotlight on those children affected by special needs, children with disabilities, children out of family care, children impacted by HIV, children increasingly impacted by climate change, whether it be environmental pollution, children affected by urbanization and emergencies, and children from minority groups within a country. And we can't forget to look at our data based on those groups. And then finally, it went out. And finally, it's really important that we put this whole goal and this whole element of nurturing care in a social protection frame. So we can't assume that we're only doing child protection when we're focusing on the child. We have to put it in the framework of social protection, of adequate housing, adequate income, because we know those are the stressors that lead to adversity for children. So it's prevention, putting a spotlight on those children, the most vulnerable, and assuring that the context of an enabling environment is put in place. So I'm going to now turn it over to Amina, but I'll also ask someone to make sure that her PowerPoint is up and working. Amina.
Good afternoon. I would like to take a few minutes, not so few, 20, to just highlight the needs of children with disabilities, those who are the most vulnerable, in my opinion, in our setting, and that is debatable, who is the most vulnerable. But in the context of nurturing care framework, in the context where we are talking about investing in early childhood for big economic returns, we have to remind ourselves that children with disabilities cannot just be assumed they'll be taken care of. I remember one of the most defining moments for me is that working in a county I won't name, I met one of a community-based, a leader of a community-based organization, and he was quite agitated. He told me, oh, I'm going to the county offices. I said, well, what's the problem? He said, can you imagine in this year's budget, there's nothing for children with disability. And when they went for the discussion, there was no malice intended. No one intended to leave out the children. Just didn't get them, they were forgotten. They were missed out. All this discussion about quality early childhood, investments and all that. I think I chose specific topic so that we don't forget this very important subgroup in our context. So, millennium development goals, all that the key concern about children, millennium development goals, childhood mortality. The beauty of millennium development goals is that it's mobilized. It has a focus, mobilized resources, and people went and addressed childhood mortality. So that was really a key point. If you look at the statistics, there was a drop of 5.1 million, 0.66 million in terms of neonatal death. That, in my opinion, is unacceptable, but it's